Today, I've come to a city nestled in the mountains of southwestern China, Fuling. To call it a city isn't entirely accurate. Administratively, it's actually a district of Chongqing. But with an urban area of over 110 square kilometers and a population exceeding 1 million, its scale rivals that of San Francisco, so it's very much a city in its own right. After exploring Fuling for a few days, I found that its terrain, waterways, and architecture bear a striking resemblance to Hong Kong. It's located on the eastern edge of Sichuan Basin, surrounded by mountains, and the limited flatland has led to dense vertical development. Buildings rise along the slopes, stacked one after another. You may have seen Hong Kong's iconic pigeon cage apartments in some videos. Fuling also has them. Water is another defining element of this city. Here, the Yangtze River and the Wujiang River converge, two great rivers that serve as both city's lifelines and its natural boundaries. They divide Fuling into several districts, each connected by bridges. On top of that, there's an affordable version of Disneyland here, the Meixing Wine Town. Long before Disneyland ever entered China, it attracted a large number of visitors with its quirky attractions, dominating the amusement park industry in Chongqing. But now, it's gradually declining. What happened? To get a full view of the city, I took taxi east from the city center, crossed the Wujiang River Bridge, and about 20 minutes later, I arrived at a small hill called Chachi Mountain. The name Chachi literally translates to flag planting, and there are many mountains with the same name across China, all of which are linked to military events from different historical periods. Fuling's Chachi Mountain got its name in 1862 when the Taiping Army, a massive rebel force led by Hong Xiuquan, who claimed to be the younger brother of Jesus Christ, attacked the city. The Taiping Army sought to overthrow the ruling Qing dynasty and establish a new kingdom called the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. After their conquest of the city, they planted their distinctive yellow flag, marking their victory. The Taiping Rebellion was one of the deadliest conflicts in history, resulting in millions of deaths and lasting for over a decade. It remains a significant chapter in China's 19th century history. Today, the area around Chachi Mountain is a rural part of Fuling, where you can still see animals raised by local residents. On top of the hill, there is a small park with a fantastic view, allowing you to overlook the entire city. On the left side, down by the foot of the mountain, there is an undeveloped area with farmland and houses, kind of mixed together. Most of the homes have these blue metal sheet roofs, but if you look further out, you can already see some tall buildings going up. Honestly, with more people being born and not much land left, it's pretty clear that this farmland will probably be taken over by new construction someday. That green river is the Wujiang River, and most of the city is located on the opposite bank. The Twin Towers are Fuling's landmark buildings, with 48 floors. You can hardly see a flat area. Many high-rise buildings are built directly on the mountains. Since there are not many tourists here, the ride-hailing drivers are reluctant to come up and pick up passengers. I waited for quite a while, but couldn't get a ride, so I decided to walk down the mountain. Although it was tiring, the scenery along the way was beautiful. As I walked, I could see the city skyline on the opposite shore getting closer, revealing more details hidden in the mist. After I walked down, I opened my map and found a shopping center called Wanda Plaza. I thought it would have plenty of restaurants, so I took taxi here. But when I arrived, I found that many of the restaurants, even KFC, were closed. I wasn't sure if they hadn't been renovated or if they had shut down completely. Wanda Group, founded by Wang Jianling, was once the largest privately owned company in China and one of the biggest commercial property developers in the world. The company started in real estate, but over the years, it expanded into entertainment, sports, and even hospitality. At its peak, Wanda owned more than 500 shopping malls across China, including the famous Wanda Plazas, which combined department stores, cinemas, and restaurants, making it a one-stop spot for shopping and entertainment. Wang was once the richest man in China, and he held the title of Asia's richest man for several years. His rise to prominence was largely driven by his strategic investments in real estate and his aggressive expansion into new sectors like film production, where he acquired major cinema chains such as AMC in the USA. However, in recent years, Wanda Group has faced a major financial crisis. Heavily burdened by debt in 2023, the company sold off many assets and halted some flagship projects, and this Wanda Plaza seems to be part of that struggle. After a simple bowl of noodles, I followed a long riverside path, filming as I walked. My first impression of the local was an indescribable sense of ease, a kind of relaxed atmosphere you rarely find elsewhere. Someone had set up a big speaker by the road, singing the same song over and over. No technique, just pure emotion. They were not asking for money or applause, they simply wanted their voice to be heard. Some people sat quietly with their fishing rods. They told me fishing gear has come a long way. You can leave it unattended now, and it will alert you automatically when a fish bites. Even if they didn't catch anything, they didn't seem to care. They just scroll on their phones or stare blankly at the water. Some people dove straight into the muddy Yangtze River, swimming freely despite the 15-degree chill. This is the daily life in Fuling. Time flows like the sluggish river, unhurried, and people are fully immersed in the simple beauty of the present moment. After I got back, I wandered around the street and noticed an inconspicuous path leading up the hills. I decided to follow the locals and went up. The view here is a completely different world from the city skyline I saw by the river. What caught my eye was a typical Chinese millennium era residential complex with an architectural style that reflects the urban housing trend in the late 20th century. The buildings feature white-tiled facades with iron rolling balconies and colorful windows. Unlike the sleek, modern high-rises, the design here focuses more on practicality and durability. As I walked further up, the buildings became older and older. To make the most of the limited land, the houses here vary in height and shape. Many built with green bricks or rough stone. Although the walls are weathered and worn, they remain sturdy. People have continuously added layers and reinforcements to the original structures, stacking one on top of another, creating a complex, three-dimensional neighborhood. Wires and pipes snake across the outer walls, forming a unique mountain city network. Iron railings, makeshift roofs, and protruding concrete balconies, although rough and simple, radiate a kind of humble creativity. I'm in an old residential building right now. Look at these walls. This building must be at least 40 years old. The staircase to the top floor is locked, and there are some small ads on the walls. Many walls in these old residential buildings are hollowed out to save electricity for lighting. I guess no one lives on the top floor anymore, but there are still a few households on the ground floor. It's dinner time now, and you can hear the sound of them cooking. The top floor of the building opposite has even been converted into a small pond. Looking at these houses, it feels like I'm back in my childhood. It's so dreamy. To my surprise, the owners of the top floor returned. They were an elder couple. The grandmother was very kind, while her husband looked at me with a slightly weary expression.
那你可以照表？
没有。
没有啊。
你老房子现在还有没有人住哦？
人都有些人了。
都不多了哈，我看顶楼都没啥子人呗。
哦。要是老房子多也就等嘞。
哦。This couple looks to be in their 70s, carrying baskets that suggest that they've been busy all day. At an age when they should be enjoying their retirement and relaxing, they continue to work hard. Their only comfort is the companionship of each other and the old house that have been with them throughout their lives. As long as family and home remain, life still holds hope. Today, I go to a very special museum. It's partly located on the water. To prevent ships from colliding the museum, a lightship is permanently anchored directly above it. You have to take an elevator down about 40 meters beneath the river surface to reach it. Hidden below the water lies a natural rock formation known as Baiheliang, or White Crane Ridge. It stretches for about 1.6 kilometers. During the flood season, it's submerged. During the dry season, it reappears, attracting flocks of red cranes, which is how it got its name. Since the Tang Dynasty, more than 1,200 years ago, people have carved face-shaped reliefs on the ridge to measure and record the Yangtze River's water level. One of them is on display right at the entrance of the museum. It was carved in 1813 by Zhang Shifan, the prefect of Fuling at that time. After years of river erosion, it eventually broke off and was later salvaged from the water. During the dry season, when the water receded, the higher the fish appeared above the surface, the lower the river level was. Over the centuries, poets and calligraphers also left their inscriptions here. turning Baiheliang into a site of both scientific and artistic value. In 1994, China's central government approved the construction of the Three Gorges Dam downstream in Yichang, expected to be completed in 2009. When finished, the rising water level of the Yangtze River would permanently submerge Baiheliang. To preserve this cultural treasure, engineers began building an underwater museum in 2003. They constructed a reinforced concrete shell, a massive protective capsule, around the ridge, isolating it from the Yangtze's flow. A glass and metal observation corridor was built alongside the ridge, allowing visitors to walk through and admire the ancient carvings up close. The Three Gorges Dam didn't just submerge Baiheliang, it also drowned several historic towns and forced many people to relocate. But on the positive side, it dramatically improved the navigation along the upper Yangtze. In 1994, annual cargo throughput along the Fuling section was about 10 million tons. By 2019, it has soared to 148 million tons, more than 14 times higher than before the dam was built. Yesterday, while I was at Chongqing Mountain Park, I noticed a pagoda on the top of the hill across from me. So this afternoon, I want to have a look. Fuling actually has several forest parks, and they are connected to each other. There are not many people around today. It's really quiet. Even though it's not dark yet, you can already hear the crickets everywhere. There is a grave here. The name on it is 别耀南, and he died in 1985. A red star on the tombstone with the words "Forever Remembered." I couldn't find any information about him online, but he must have been a Red Army martyr, because if this were an ordinary person's grave, it would have been removed when the park was built. There's also a mountain pass here called Guangzhou Pass. It's said that it was built back in the Ming Dynasty. In the final years of the Ming, the rebel force led by Zhang Xianzhong fought the Ming army right here. The whole pass is built out of stone, very rough, all hand-laid. The houses on it was probably built in more recent times. It's painted in different kinds of colors, but it's clearly been abandoned for a long while. There's weeds growing all around it, and the doors and windows are sealed shut. No idea what's inside. After walking for almost 2 hours from the park entrance, I finally see this pagoda. It looks impressive from here. Rises level by level, getting narrower as it goes up. Each floor has these beautifully curved eaves that tilt upward at the corners. Really classic and elegant. Actually, this pagoda was only built in 2023. At its base, there is a stone tablet made to imitate the kind of inscriptions that ancient builders would carve to commemorate the completion of an important structure. There are no guards inside, and visitors can come and go freely. Go up the spiral staircase inside, and you will be treated to a stunning view. From this angle, Fuling's terrain looks a lot like Hong Kong. Steep green mountains on all sides, and the city packed tightly into the valleys. But Fuling feels more poetic. The mountains in the distance are wrapped in a thin layer of mist, making the whole landscape look like it was lightly brushed on with ink. Before I came here, I spotted a unique building on social media. Its style really sparked my curiosity, so I'm going to check it out tonight. On my way there, I passed by the Twin Towers. This place is probably the busiest part of Fuling. The only downside is that you can't really see the night view from inside the towers unless you book one of those expensive hotel rooms. The name of the area where this apartment is located is interesting. Translated literally, it means the crooked corner. It's probably because there is a steep slope here. The entrance to the building is a tiny, almost unnoticeable alley lit by a pale, cold light that makes it feel a bit eerie. This structure is essentially two residential blocks facing each other, forming a narrow, vertical courtyard. The facades are lined with densely packed apartments, each window enclosed by heavy metal security grills. Between the two walls of homes, a series of exposed concrete staircases zigzag upward, connecting the floors like an external skeleton. A lot of people living here are elderly. In the courtyard on the ground floor, you can see many chairs. They like to sit together and chat. But even though it's only 8 p.m., many of the apartments are already dark. I'm not sure if some of them are even occupied anymore. What do you think? How would it feel to live in a place like this? License forging service. On my last day in Fuling, I plan to visit a special amusement park mentioned Town. It's 30 kilometers from the city center, but the public transportation system is quite convenient. I only need to transfer a few times to get there. As soon as I got the bus, I saw the entrance to this amusement park. There is no entrance fee, each ride costs money separately. Next to the park is a busy roadway with trains passing by every now and then. Cross the railway bridge and you will reach the hotel area. Along the way, you can see some wine-themed elements, and they actually produce wine here. The rooms here are very affordable. The cheapest is just $5 per night, and the prices tops out at 20. Perhaps due to many vacant rooms and few tourists, some hotels have been converted into nursing homes. I feel these elderly people live quite lonely here. Most of them just sit there staring blankly on their own. This place is designed so creatively. Look, the power box is painted like SpongeBob. On the right, there is a plaster painting shop. You can buy a white plaster figure and paint it yourself. I even played with this when I was a kid. This whole street is lined with restaurants, but there are barely any tourists. Most of them are closed. And look, there's even a car stuck mid-air overhead with a cigarette in its mouth. There are tons of quirky sights around. Go up the stairs and you will find the water park here. There are no tourists at all, only staff doing maintenance work. They told me it's only open in summer. But the railings aren't locked, so I can still go in and take a look. These rides were all wrapped in black plastic bags. The most worthwhile sight to see is this town on the bridge. Rather than a town, it's more like a food street. These houses on the bridge come in various shapes and styles from different parts of the world. But this imaginative town, which should be a paradise for children, now only sees a few elderly people taking walks, which makes me feel a little sad. There's a fountain here, and next to it, a mock Syrian sign that lures tourists to linger, then soaks them from head to toe.
Holy shit, bro!
Now, the only ones left to tease are the cleaners here. There is a temple at the end of the bridge, but it's clearly not a serious religious site. Statues from different religions are placed together. It's more like a religion-themed amusement park. So, how did the theme park decline? To answer that, we have to go back to 2006. Meishin, a company best known for its store manufacturing business, built a theme park in Chongqing called Foreigner Street, famous for its absurd and nonsensical style. In the early 2000s, the idea of being foreign was associated with openness and diversity, so inside the park, you could see buildings inspired by places all over the world, bizarrely shaped houses, and all kinds of ridiculous world records. The one that impressed me the most was the world's largest toilet, supposedly able to accommodate 2,000 people. Despite all the craziness, everything here was extremely affordable. There was no entrance fee, 1 yuan could buy a giant loaf of bread, 5 yuan got you on the cable car, and rides like roller coaster or a pirate ship were only 10 yuan. It broke the stereotype that theme parks must be expensive. Whether you were a student, a worker, or family visitor, you could spend an entire day here without worrying about the cost. But this happiness only lasted until 2018. Urban planning changes transformed the land into a commercial housing project, and Foreigner Street was forced to relocate to Fuling, becoming what's now Mission Wine Town. Its location is too remote. People from Chongqing's main urban area are unwilling to come here. Today, Many of the rides sit unused, visitors are sparse, and the decorations are far less refined than those in places like Disneyland. But walking through it all, I still feel something familiar, almost as if a piece of my childhood has quietly come back to life.